Welcome to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name's Sherrod Mello, and I'm the Shepherd of Black Sheep. Today, we're going to go over a new case, the Brian Kohberger case. And in regards to this topic, we're going to go over the new theory. I saw people talking about this in the beginning too, but did Brian Kohberger have an accomplice? And there seems to be more speculation that he might have now. And the victims' families, they're going to speak out about this as well. But we're going to go over a Brian Etten video that goes over this entire topic. Hello there, Kat. Hello. Because she's from across the pond, so she says hello. Heather, welcome. Hot, welcome. Mac, welcome. Beautiful seems to know when Brian Etten and others seem to be skeptical. But we'll see. We'll see what they all say. Hello there, Heather. So let's see what they have to say for themselves. That's it. B says there wasn't one. So the book should be closed. We should stop the video. B has spoken.
Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. I really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I really appreciate all the support. In this episode, I am getting into the latest with these Brian Kohberger documents that have been released. Basically, the judge has slowly been releasing all of these documents that were sealed. We now know what the defense experts were going to say. We know what the prosecution's experts were going to say. All of these things about the possibility of another suspect, which we now know isn't true, but the defense was going to argue that. Also, just the terrible autopsy specifics. I'm going to talk in this episode. I've got Kaylee Gonzalez's parents, Christy and Steve. They're going to join me, and we're going to go over some of the latest, also what they've been through. They're very upset about the state releasing photos. And I'm going to get their reaction to that, and also to what's in some of these new documents and just how they've been doing, and go over the latest on all of it with you. There's been a lot of developments in the last week and a half or so. So I'll get into all of it in this episode of Brian Etten. Hey guys, all right, so I'm going to talk to Kaylee Gonzalez's parents in a little bit in this episode, Christy and Steve Gonzalez. But first, I want to go through all of the newest documents that came out. These all came out as part of the judge slowly unsealing all of the records related to the case, to the Brian Kohberger case. Remember, so much of it was under wraps. There was this gag order, and it was frustrating covering the whole thing because felt like every other record was sealed. But slowly, both sides have been reviewing the records, and they are becoming unsealed. So I went through the 155 pages and highlighted the things that I found the most interesting and that I thought were new. Keep in mind, there's a lot here from defense experts. There's two experts that I'm going to talk about here. There's Dr. Sutton, who's the prosecution expert, and then there's Dr. Turvey, who is the defense expert. And keep in mind, there's all sorts of defense theories, and it's interesting because we now know if there were a trial, what Brian Kohberger's defense team would have presented. So that's interesting. But just keep in mind that, Brian Kohberger did plead guilty. He admitted to doing this. I was in the courtroom when he admitted to this, and police have.
So when I went to school in West Virginia Mountaineers, whenever the West Virginia Mountaineer football team would win, they would play John Denver, Country Roads, because in the song, Almost Heaven, West Virginia, and actually the kids, because my little brother lives in West Virginia and he's got kids, they sing that song in kindergarten there. They make all the kids sing the song. But that is a good John Denver song. There's Rocky Mountain High, Leaving on a Jet Plane, but Country Roads to me. Or Thank God I'm a Country Boy.
Said that he is the only perpetrator. And again, he has admitted to it, and he's been sentenced to life behind bars without the possibility of parole. So just sort of keep that in mind as I go through these things, because I know there's so many people. Not so many, but there's a lot of people out there. I think I said so many because they seem to get a lot of attention, but they call them the pro-burgers, who, don't believe that Brian Kohberger is responsible and have been really zeroing in on a lot of these defense theories. But I just want to say again, Brian Kohberger pled guilty, admitted to the crimes. He could have had a trial. He could have told his lawyer, I want to go to trial, and there would have been a trial, and he could have claimed that he was innocent, but he did not do that. So I just think it's something important to remember as we go through all these new documents. First thing I want to start with is the details of the autopsies are now public. We knew that it was a brutal, just awful, awful attack.
So as we know, with Brian Etten said, no accomplice, no multiple suspects, but the family is going to react to people saying that. So let's see what they say too.
But I guess, didn't realize just how brutal until I read through these details. And some of this stuff is difficult to listen to. I'm, of course, not going to show any of the crime scene photos. There were the new crime scene photos that were released, and that's something more that I'll talk to the Gonzalez's about. I don't really see the point in showing more of those photos. We showed them initially, but at this point, it's just, there's no point. So I'm not going to show any photos here, but I am going to read you through some of the injuries just because I think it shows the brutality of the crime in a way that we didn't really know before. So I'll start with Keely Gonzalez's autopsy. Cause of death, multiple sharp force injuries, which we knew that was the cause of death. What we didn't know is all of these details. So stab and incised wounds of the scalp, face, and neck. There were 24 plus of those. So over 24 stab wounds of the scalp, face, and neck. Stab wounds of the chest. There were 11. Just think about how many times he stabbed these kids. 24 to the scalp, face, and neck. 11 times to the chest. Stab wounds to the upper extremities. 3. Punctures of the outer table of the skull, injuries to the teeth and tongue, perforations of the subclavian artery and vein, hemorrhage into the chest cavities. Blunt force injuries include scalp laceration, bleeding around the brain, nasal fracture, scrapes on the nose and cheeks, bruising around the eye.
And all of this was from getting rejected because these were very intimate crimes. Knife attacks, very intimate crimes, just like we've been saying with Nick Reiner here. So this is up close and personal and just cold-blooded, psychopathic.
Eyes, patterned bruises extending across the lower face. There were hemorrhages in the eyes and mouth. And then the blood alcohol concentration was 0.107. So just a really, really disturbing amount of stab wounds on Keely Gonzalez. For Madison Mogen, again, the official cause of death was multiple sharp force injuries. Stab wounds to the scalp, face, and neck. There were 13. Stab wounds to the chest. There were 5. Wounds at the upper extremities. There were 10. Wounds on the lung and liver. There were perforations, the veins, artery, and blood vessels of the chest wall. Blood alcohol concentration on Maddie was 0.282. Also, there was an incision of the nasal septum. There was a perforation of the tongue. Oh gosh, and there was fluid in the lower airwaves. So that was Maddie. Xana Kernodle, again, official cause of death was multiple sharp force injuries. Stab and incised wounds of the scalp, face, and neck. There were 23. Stab wounds of the chest. There were 7. Stab wounds of the abdomen. There were 4. Puncture wounds to the back. There were 3. Wounds of the upper extremities. There were 25. Wounds of the lower extremities. 5. Punctures of the outer table of the skull. Perforations of the jugular vein, heart, lung, and pulmonary blood vessels.
And honestly, if you're the victim's family, it's got to suck to have this be so public like this as well. As a reminder, oh, this is, by the way, how your loved ones were brutally killed. I mean, who's going to like that? But when it comes to this kind of thing, once it's public, people are they're gonna pounce.
Hemorrhages into the chest cavities, wounds extending into the bones of the right hand, scrapes and bruise of the face, torso, and extremities, a blood alcohol concentration 0.229. Just awful.
And these blood alcohol concentrations, they're pretty high. I mean, 0.229's like Hi.
Ethan Chapin, again, the official cause of death was multiple sharp force injuries, stab wounds of the scalp, face, and neck. There were 4 stab wounds of the upper chest. There was 1 incise wounds on the upper extremities, 6 stab wounds of the lower extremities, 6 perforations of the jugular vein, subclavian vein, and subclavian artery. So I don't know if I'm saying that right. I think I've mispronounced that before. Blood alcohol concentration of 0.122.
And again, this whole scene must have been a bloody mess. Makes me want to like throw up just thinking about it.
Amphetamine level 260 ng/ml. So all 4 of the victims had an unbelievable amount of stab wounds. And we knew this was a brutal crime, but I think when you hear that, you realize just how brutal and awful it was. They described the positioning of the bodies, which is interesting. The bodies of Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogen were reportedly discovered in the bedroom assigned to Madison Mogen. Miss Mogen was located on the south side of the bed, closest to the closet opening, and Miss Gonzalez was located on the north side of the bed, closest to the wall. Both are covered with a beige comforter. A white fleece item, which appears to be a blanket, is lying at the foot of the bed. Madison Mogen and Kaylee Gonzalez are lying on their backs. Miss Gonzalez is partially lying on top of the right arm, right shoulder, and upper torso of Miss Mogen, as depicted in one of these photos, which is blacked out, obviously. The posture and proximity of the bodies of Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogen can be visualized. When the comforter is removed, no blood is noted on the bottoms or tops of their feet, indicating that they were not upright or moving about the area after the bloodletting injuries were inflicted. So they weren't like standing up, walking around the room or trying to fight back standing up. According to this, it appears they were just, in the laying down position. According to their respective autopsy reports, no bloodletting injuries were reported below the waist or on their backs of either Miss Gonzalez or Miss Mogen. The lack of blood on the front of her sleeping pants for Kaylee Gonzalez further supports the conclusion that Miss Gonzalez never stood upright after the bloodletting injuries to her upper body were inflicted. So basically, there were a lot of theories that like a lot of fighting back, or that Kaylee may have stood up in the room. According to this report, she never stood up. Then they talk about where the knife sheath was. The location of the brown object in the vicinity of the lower left back and or thigh of Madison Mogen is indicated by a yellow oval. The object was later identified as a brown knife sheath, and the back of the knife sheath is exposed. We've all seen pictures of the knife sheath by now. On the knife sheath, they found Kaylee Gonzalez.
And when this case first came out, I wasn't paying attention to it as much. So I don't know as much about this case than I do about Michael McKee and Nick Reiner, etc. So I'm a little bit behind on all the ins and outs of this case.
DNA profile matches for Kaylee Gonzalez's DNA, Madison Mogen, and then DNA from Brian Kohberger was identified on the front strap of the knife sheath, which I've obviously been reporting for a long time. That was really, I would argue, the prosecution's main piece of evidence. Obviously, there was the camera footage of his car coming and going. There was the cell phone data, but his DNA is on the knife sheath, which we knew, but I just want to reemphasize that again. So when it comes to Xana, this says that there was blood on the bottoms of her feet, and the observation indicates that Xana Kernodle was moving about and stepping into liquid blood after bloodletting injuries had occurred. So this is kind of disturbing to think about, but unlike with Kaylee and Maddie, where they're saying that there's no evidence that they stood up, for Xana, it's the opposite. This expert is claiming that it appears that she was stepping into liquid blood after the injuries had occurred. So Xana was with it enough to stand up. Although there is physical evidence to support that Ms. Kernodle was moving about within her bedroom, there is no physical evidence to indicate that she ever moved beyond this room once she was bleeding heavily. But again, it's still just sort of awful to think about the fact that she apparently was moving around the room and was with it enough to move around the room. So according to the prosecution's expert, there is no physical evidence to exclude a single perpetrator causing the death of these 4 individuals. So the prosecutor's expert says that there is no chance of more than one perpetrator, which is what police have said all along. You'll see in a second the defense expert has a different theory on that. The comprehensive search of Brian Kohberger's vehicle did not locate any blood or specific evidence in connection with the events that took place at 1122 King Road. So we knew that. They searched his car extensively. You've seen the pictures where they tore it all apart, and they found no evidence related back to the crimes. Same with his apartment in Pullman, Washington, at Washington State University. What I go back to here is if anyone knew how to clean up a car and an apartment and to take precautions to make sure that there was no DNA or blood left behind, it would be Brian Kohberger. He got his master's in criminology and he was getting his PhD in criminology. Where he got his master's in criminology in Pennsylvania, they have a whole like fake crime scene that they study, like a fake crime scene house. I know he was online for most of his classes. I don't know if he went in the fake crime scene house, but my point is, if anyone knew how to clean this up perfectly, it would have been Brian Kohberger, which would explain why they didn't locate any blood or specific evidence in his car or in his apartment. But that came up here in some of these documents. Regarding secondary footwear transfers, there are no visible footwear transfers associated with any of the possible exits from the scene. Even though it can be established that the perpetrator left the scene, they did so without leaving visible footwear transfer stains. Again, just something interesting to think about. They didn't find any footprints belonging to Brian Kohberger. Or at least visible footwear transfer.
So how old is this case now anyway? Did this happen over a year ago?
This is what they call them. Again, goes back to the guy knew how to pull this off. I mean, if it wasn't for him leaving behind the knife sheath, I would say it could have been the perfect crime. No, because of the surveillance video of him driving by in his own car. But still, I mean, he made a big mistake leaving behind that knife sheath. But you can tell through all of these documents how meticulous he was in other ways, not getting any blood in his car or apartment or cleaning it up perfectly, and then also no visible footwear transfers. So this is from Dr. Turvey, who is the...
So this is going to be speculation, but Hotham says the leak has been coming from law enforcement. What makes you say that? And what, like this information getting leaked is what you mean? Or do you mean something else? That long ago, B? 4 years ago? 3 and something years ago?
Defense expert says the evidence suggests that after both victims were killed or unresponsive, they were posed in their shared bed. Kaylee was moved from a position with her head on her pillow to partially atop of Madison. Then the comforter was placed over them both. So the defense expert seems to believe that they were posed in the bed. There has been no evidence of that based on the police or investigators saying that. It says posing is a possibility, but not a determination that can be made to the exclusion of other explanations for their positioning. Dr. Turvey, who is the defense expert, says, this refers to intentionally arranging the scene for effect. In the present case, But
the big thing also would be, then what is the motivation of the trickle? Like, why are they doing it? Just to keep on getting press coverage about it? I mean, he's already in jail for life. He's not going to get the death penalty because that was part of his plea agreement. So what's the intention now? Just to get more attention? Like, but what do you think?
Bodies of Kaylee and Madison were posed together after the lethal attack suffered by both, and then they were covered together with a comforter. Kaylee was moved from a position with her head on her pillow to partially atop of Madison. Again, that's just what the defense expert says. We don't know if they were actually posed, but this is the first time that I have heard sort of posing come up as a theory. This is the defense expert, I believe, that says indirect evidence includes the absence of bloody transfer from feet and hands, despite the movement of suspects within the home. the necessary opening of doors, and the absence of bloody footwear patterns at the scene in general. All of this would have required an excessive amount of time at the scene to clean, perhaps hours, which is inconsistent with the state's theory that these crimes were committed within a time frame interval less than 15 to 20 minutes. So the defense expert was going to argue that there's no way you could have done all of this in 15 to 20 minutes and done it all without leaving behind any evidence of, footwear stains, blood transfers, that kind of thing. Again, we know that Brian Kohberger did it because he admitted to it. And in terms of how exactly he pulled it off so quickly.
And again, even if someone gets the death penalty, you can be on death row for 20 to 30 years before you exhaust all of your appeals. And even if they don't want to appeal, I think lawyers will still do it just to get paid. So I don't know. It kind of loses its impact when it takes 30 years for justice to be carried out. It's not like back in the day. It's not like back in the day with the guillotine. Robespierre would sentence someone to death, and then later that day, they're at the guillotine. Or the next day, boom, guillotine. Now, 25 years later,
and exactly which way he went in and out of the house, he's probably the only person that can really tell the full story of that. So we may never know. Dr. Turvey says it is not reasonable to think that Ethan would have remained in his bed after waking up or being awoke while Xana was being attacked in front of him. This evidence and context begin to suggest the existence of a second attacker. So Dr. Turvey, the expert for the defense, was going to bring up the idea of the possibility of a second attacker. Again,
so this is where that idea came from, but doesn't mean it's true.
There's no evidence of a second attacker. Police have made clear there wasn't a second attacker. Brian Kohberger has never said there was a second attacker and is the only person who admitted to these crimes. But it is interesting to see that this is something, if there had been a trial, that this would have been a theory that they would have brought up. At least 2 suspects were involved in this attack, Dr. Turvey says. This is indicated by the fact that multiple weapons were used against Kaylee, that multiple types of lethal force were used against Kaylee, and that Ethan and Xana appear to have been attacked at the same time. This is inconsistent with the state's theory that these crimes were committed solely by one individual. So if there had been a trial, it sounds like one of Ann Taylor's big theories here would have been that Brian Kohberger could not have done it alone. Granted, we now know that he did, and we may never know exactly how he pulled it off, but he has admitted to it. So let's see, the knife sheath was staged. So then there's also this other debate about whether or not the knife sheath was staged where it was found. Dr. Turvey reports that the knife sheath was staged for the following reasons. Crime scene staging refers to
I think California, they used to have the death penalty. And I think technically they still do. There's just a moratorium on it. So again, they're more of a liberal state. Liberal states generally don't like the death penalty as much. Now, states like Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida. Actually, Florida just proposed some legislation where if you get convicted of child sexual assault of someone under 12, you can get the death penalty for that. What do you think about that, chat?
Attempt to confuse or misdirect law enforcement. The sheath was found precariously placed just slightly under the body of Madison Mogen and partially covered by the comforter that was placed atop the midsection of her body by the suspect. It could not have fallen accidentally into this location. So that's what Dr. Turvey says. And again, just an eye into what the defense may have been, that the bodies were staged, the knife sheath was staged, was Brian Kohberger set up? Again, none of this, it's interesting to look back on for those of us who followed the case so closely, but none of it really matters now because Brian Kohberger admitted to the crimes. And again, he didn't have to do that. So I was there, I was in the courtroom when he confessed. Sutton, who is the expert for the prosecution, says the sheath could have become trapped under Madison Mogen's body when she moved her left leg out of the bed. If she were hurriedly moving her left leg, she would not have taken time to move the comforter, in which case the sheath would be trapped between the comforter and the bed. So that's sort of how the prosecution was going to come back and combat that argument that the whole thing was staged, that the knife sheath was staged. So I think this is really this last 150-page document dump. There may be more coming, but we've seen a lot. I mean, the judge has unsealed a lot. Idaho State Police released hundreds of new crime scene photos, including from inside the house. You guys might remember this. This was a couple of weeks ago. The families were very, very upset. Then ISP actually pulled them off the website. There was one photo where you could see at least one of the victims, and it was pretty terrible. And the families, rightfully so, were like, what the heck? Like, why would you just release these photos? So again, I'm not going to show any of those photos, but when I would go through when I read you those autopsy details, I mean, it's just brutal. So I want to talk to Kaylee's parents now about the latest of everything, all of these new documents, everything they're going through. I want to talk to Kaylee's parents, Christy and Steve Gonzalez.
So these are the parents here. We'll see what they say about all of this.
I went through all the new documents, obviously, that were released. And I think people do forget that, you know, the expert hired by the defense team, like that was their job to come up with other theories. And at the end, I mean, Brian Kohberger, I mean, we were both in the courtroom, pled guilty, admitted to the murders. So what do you make of these people that are really hanging on to, you know, these other theories that are now floating around?
You know, I'm not really sure why they're still hanging on there. I mean, I don't know why they're trying to fight for him when he didn't fight for himself, and neither is his own family. So why are these people out here, you know, trying to...
You got to think there's going to be ulterior motives with everything. So all the conspiracy theories, everyone wants to get their 15 minutes, or they want to grift on their channels, or they want just some form of attention, or they want some monetary gain. There's always going to be something. And so that's the one thing with social media. It gives human nature's worst impulses a very easy outlet. And you see that a lot, unfortunately.
You know, make this a different story than what it is. I don't know if it's just lack of knowledge, you know, just really not knowing the details, maybe being just very close-minded and this warped sense of mind, just, you know, reading, you can read both sides of the documents, this expert and this expert. Maybe they're just cherry picking what they want to fit their theory, to fit their analogy of what happened, you know, their speculation, because we know for a long time, it was pure speculation because there was the gag order. We were all grasping at straws, you know what I'm saying? We all had little bits and pieces, and it just created a perfect storm. And it has just, it's like this petri dish, and all that's left is just the nothing but bacteria that just continues to grow, you know? So, it needs a big dose of antibiotic.
Yeah.
Heavy duty.
So Shannon was like, I was a little upset with the way that the plea deal went, and I felt like it wasn't quite, I didn't want to fight this battle for the rest of my life.
A little upset? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to fight this for the rest of my life, and I thought that more could be done. One thing Shannon did say was, Steve, that when somebody pleads for a mass murder and waives their right, never in the history have they ever had it overturned and got like a retrial. So a mass murder and then waiving your rights to the appeal means he goes away. Even though I thought, without like the details of him saying whether the murder weapon was and different things, was going to leave it open for people to, you know, play these games in the true crime communities. So I think I'm right, but maybe in the reality of things, he's never going to get an appeal. That's not realistic. His DNA's.
And this is the nightmare for any parent, right? Your kid goes off to school and multiple parents are in this position, and this is what happens to them there. And you have to think about, what would I want to have happen to the person convicted? Do you want them to get the death penalty? Do you want them to, and I've said this before too, them getting the death penalty, it's like, unless I did it myself, I wouldn't really get much satisfaction from that. If you ever seen Game of Thrones, Ned Stark would say something I actually agree with. He said, if you pass the sentence, you should swing the sword. And I agree with that, actually. But now we're too civilized for that, so they would never do that.
In the crime scene, and he's never going to ever be. If he gets an appeal, then the whole world gets an appeal. All of American cases get opened up, and you have DNA at the ground. Like, literally, what are you saying? You're going to say you're going to open up every single case? Because that's really what you would be doing. You'd be setting a precedent. So,
Yeah, that's the part I don't understand. The people who just, it seems like they forget that his DNA is on the knife sheath.
Well, and that's another part. That's another part that they explained, and they did a really good job. Is they said it, Steve, it's not just there. So we know people would say that they dropped that
It was planted.
sheep, but it was aspirated. So there's aspirated blood from, unfortunately, our daughter and Maddie. But that means it was under pressure. That means that the droplets were, to be technical, it was an aspirated, so it was under pressure. So they landed, and his DNA landed amongst that. So you couldn't just drop that sheath afterwards and still have the aspiration there. So they were like, we were going to destroy that argument that it was dropped after the fact, because you couldn't have the victim's blood in the manner that it was there. So
it wasn't like smears where they could have just smeared some on it.
But when they tell you this, and then the rest of the world doesn't get to hear it.
So I didn't know this. Don't forget. So Idaho has a firing line. You can look at all the methods. I don't think the electric chair is still in operation anywhere. Occasionally, I think some states would still do hangings, but I don't know. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what methods are available.
You get mad that they're getting out of their jobs. They have a job to do, and just because you make a plea deal, doesn't mean you don't have a responsibility to communicate to the rest of your community. This is what you would have done. They just say, wash my hands, I'm done. And we can't do that in our jobs. We can't just go to our coworker and say, let's make a deal. Well, what is it? Well, we don't have to do any more of our work. We're done. If we could do that, a lot of us would go to work every weekend and make deals that we could get out of our jobs. So I think we're going to try to work towards those type of things getting fixed, where you make a plea deal, but you still explain. Maybe you do a mock trial. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like, but I know it doesn't look like YouTube is going to do the trial for the next 4 years.
Well, and I think your case is unusual. I mean, it's just so watched. You know what I mean? Most people don't have to deal with what you guys have to deal with when there's a plea deal. Has anyone been bothering you guys? I mean, like Christy was saying before we got on here, this latest document dump has kind of energized some of these like pro-burger people. I mean, are people bugging you guys, or do they respect you? Or
they like to throw our name out there a lot, and they like to, go back and look at old interviews or whatnot, and, call us liars about things and this and that. And the thing is, we never lied about anything. There may have been times during the case that we had been misinformed and we spoke.
And again, I wasn't talking about true crime yet when this stuff happened a few years ago. Well, it happened 2022, but 2025 was when he actually took that deal, apparently in July. But I wasn't talking about this stuff then. I was talking more about narcissism and interviews. But that's the thing. This true crime stuff, you can apply knowledge from psychopathy, dark triad, dark tetrad, narcissism into these kinds of cases. Because a lot of times, as Michael McKee has proved, a lot of coercive control and domestic violence, narcissistic abuse. And then with Nick Reiner, got the trifecta of things: mental health, addiction, personality disorder, all sorts.
Misinformed information. But contrary to what, some people might or might not believe, it really doesn't matter to us. But we never intentionally lied. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So to think that at times that we didn't have misinformation would be, why are we held at this, different standard? We were all under this gag order and fighting, and people were reaching out to us on different levels, and we were vetting that stuff. Like, is this true? Is this true? That, this person is this person, this person sounds really credible, like, I think this might really be true. Oh, that is absolutely not true. And we weren't just running with everything, I'm saying, that we were getting. So,
people are very simple-minded in the true crime community. Two things can be right. So Abbott could have been told, tell them, Mavic could have been told, tell them that their daughters were asleep and they were attacked. That can be true, but her not going into the details of saying that they fought back and there was, there's all these details, that could be true as well. But she told us they were asleep and they were attacked and they'd been drinking. So that's what we went with. So it wasn't that we're lying. It was just, that's the truth as we knew it at the moment.
At that time. And things changed, like things evolved and things changed. So
and that's why I was mad when I found out there was more to it, but I wasn't lying when I said that. That's exactly what it was told to me as.
For years, we had what Kathy Mavic told us, the coroner, on the phone, and Kaylee's death certificate. For years, that's what we had. And we never added to that. We never said that more happened to Kaylee.
And then when we got the autopsy report, we're like, we just learned all these new facts. And they're like, you guys said you already knew. So things can get confusing. And that's what happens when you lose the leadership of a courtroom with professionals that dedicate 6-7 years to be educated into these matters and explain it.
Like real, a real journalist, not somebody that's sitting in their basement,
or a team of seasoned lawyers. These people are there for a reason because they're experts, and you can't reproduce that with just some random Joe Blow that's making. A good example of how ridiculous this is and what we've been fighting is people are getting records with our children's dead bodies in there, and the actual wound, blood, guts, and all, and then they put their little watermark on it, and we're not even allowed to use it, and we don't have the original doc, so we don't know if it's even true, and we're sitting here trying to figure out, is this AI, is this real, what's going on?
And this is what many creators probably don't even stop to think about, and they don't care what the parents have to deal with when they give out this information, and then they use their watermark, like he's saying, and then you can't freaking even use it because of their watermark and copyright. People just don't think about it. People don't think about how this stuff impacts other people. They're just more self-centered, and it's about the grift a lot of times.
This even a true thing, because we haven't been even given a copy yet, and they're not going to give us a copy. And if we go and share theirs, we're actually violating the law, even though it's our kids' freaking case.
Well, we can get them, but a lot of these documents, we don't even know where they're coming from. We're going to the entities that we know have been putting them out, and they're not there. We're like, where did this person that has this watermark even get this document? Is it from ISP? Is it from Moscow? Is it from Ada County? Where's it coming from? And, we're not even able to see that. And we were always held under the...
So whenever I see people grieving now, I'm always reminded of Candace Owens now. I'm like, oh, what would Candace Owens say about these people? And she'd probably come up all sorts of nonsense, right?
Impression that autopsy results were not going to be released, that those were protected by HIPAA.
And it's part of my problem with Candace Owens. There's people around Charlie that truly are grieving, and I don't really think she cares about it at all. She says she does, and she acts like she's super close to him, but I just don't know if I buy it. I don't know if I buy it. I don't know what what do her kids think of Candace, implying all these things about their mother? Does she even stop to think about it? I doubt it.
And this is something Bill Thompson told us. Why we believe Bill Thompson, who knows? It was one thing that I guess we held on to, that maybe he was telling the truth about.
$20,000.
But we listened to him. And so when those came out last Friday.
And again, according to friend of the channel, HG Tudor, Candace Owens is the narcissist.
It
was news to us.
It was news to us.
And did you know everything in those? I mean,
no, those details are completely different than the coroner's report.
Well, the coroner, but we do have autopsy report. I don't think any of us that we got the day of sentencing on a thumb drive. We got
Kaylee's 41 page.
And I don't think that any of us, I know I haven't have actually combed through it, and just been it's not easy to do. That's not something that, we've done. And it's a little different when you're seeing this stuff on, on the internet, and now, it's being talked about.
Just be honest. even if we did get that, which we did get a 21-page thing.
I'm just saying we didn't go through it.
It didn't have the other victims and the whole totality of what this individual did when they're asking us to make a plea deal. We didn't get that. All
That's
we got
what I was wondering. I mean, do you think that you and the other families should have, because when I was just reading, I was on vacation, so I just now read through the new documents, and you guys know I've covered this story and the case and everything inside and out, but like seeing the number of wounds on all of the kids
was enraging.
takes on another, and I mean, and it's not pictures, it's just the words of it. And when you see in parentheses like 24, you know, the different, I mean, the number of wounds, like it takes on a different feeling, the whole thing.
It's a different reality.
Yeah.
It's a new reality because now you're becoming aware. And to hide those things from the parents is disgusting. They hid that from us. And that was just our own child, let alone all the children together and say, we're gonna ask you to make a plea deal right now. And here's 21 pages of a PDF. How much time do you need to read this?
So chat, what do you think their motivation was in hiding it from the parents? Are they trying to do it, quote unquote, for their own good? Were there other selfish reasons involved? They just don't want them to know? Like, I don't know. What do you think?
To make this decision, it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous.
I don't think we were privy to the other kids' information.
We were not.
We were not.
That's the whole point.
I didn't need to know what happened to the other kids to make our decision on how we felt, you know, wanting the death penalty in the trial. So, but learning about that stuff was very hard, and there were things that, you know, having it, you know, like boom, here it is on the internet, and you know, social media outlets are talking about it and going over each and every little one that catch your attention. I learned things that I was not aware. So I just learned some new things that happened to Kaylee last week.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, if my daughter would have been killed while she was sleeping, it would have been described the way it was first described, and I would have learned what happened to Xana, I wouldn't have given him the deal. Just off of what he did to that girl alone, let alone all of them together, the totality of everything. It was outrageous to hide what happened to these victims.
I see now. So the prosecution was hiding it from them. And maybe because they wanted the parents on board with the deal, and the deal was confess, life in prison, no appeals. So again, I mean, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I mean, if you're a parent, what do you go for? Do you go for the death penalty and then you have to deal with all the appeals and waiting 30 years for justice? Or do you hopefully just say, forget it, life in prison is also a form of torture anyway? And then you just like forget about it? I mean, forget about it. I mean, forget about it as much as you can, right? Forget about him, I should say. You'll never forget your children.
Like that girl.
You mean the fact that she was like standing up in the room and everything?
She fought. I mean, she went through everything that she went through. That should have been honored with not a deal. You don't deal with the worst people in your society unless you're just a weak prosecutor who's looking to run out the exit. I mean, you have DNA in the crime scene. I mean, the FBI gave it to you like a gift, and you want to refuse to use it? I can't accept that. And I told him this. I told him this before he made his deal. I will not back you. And if you want to go there, but you will not have our support.
Yeah. Did you get any warning? Or I read a few different things, like when those photos came out from ISP, like, did they call you guys first?
Yes. Olivia got a call for whatever reason. They called Olivia and they said, we just want to give you a heads up. These are going to be dropping within the next couple hours on the ISP page. Okay. So by the time she got off the phone, there was a 12-minute phone call. By the time she got off the phone and went to ISP, they were already there. So she saw, she got a hold of me. She saw very quickly there were some, you know, very
questionable,
not questionable, just there were victims in the pictures, and she got a hold of them in there. She was like, there are victims in the pictures here. And they took it down. But in the meantime, whoever got.
And again, I think the prosecutors there's no legal obligation for them to ask the parents anything, right? I think they were just trying to do like the right thing by them. because maybe they're putting themselves in the parents' shoes. What would we want a prosecutor to do if that were us? But they're under no legal obligation to do so.
Got those pictures, you know what I'm saying?
And now they're making money off of them. It's disgusting.
But the autopsy results that came out on Friday, we still don't even know where those actually came from. I don't know if we figured it out.
But
I don't
they're
know.
watermarked, so be
Last
careful
week-
if you share.
You
it.
mean the only autopsy results I saw were in those 155 pages released by the court? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Where
Yes.
it just kind of details the different wounds.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they cite their, official autopsy, results and whatnot. And, there's some very detailed
It's personal.
descriptions in there.
Anybody put yourself in our shoes. If you went and did like an application and you did like a drug test or you did some kind of background check, that shouldn't be public information.
Yeah.
And a killer shouldn't say, because we've asked for his records and they tell us for HIPAA, we can't share his mental evaluation. So he can kill my daughter, steal her rights to her protection because now she's dead. So she gets no protection. So you guys can all share my daughter's records because this guy killed her, but we can't see his records. That's against the rules.
And
that's wrong.
the photos, I don't understand why people would want to publish the photos. The wounds, I felt like it was important for people to know. Like you said, I mean, no one really, it hits you in a different way when you read.
Yeah, when you read exactly what happened to the victims, you contextualize it differently. Like it puts you there and you're able to see how brutal the crime actually was. And yeah, that would influence what you would want to see done to the defendant, right? Like, what's the punishment going to be? That would certainly influence that.
What happened to all of them, like just I don't know. It felt, that to me felt important. I don't think anybody knew.
And that's why I always felt like as a family, we were transparent about things that happened to Kaylee. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we didn't go through as like a medical examiner and go down the line of what had happened, but we felt that we told the world what happened to Kaylee, like in a totality. We can't speak on the other victims. We didn't know about the other victims, that's not our place to speak. But right away, when we found out that, Kaylee had bad face damage and missing teeth and a broken nose and brain bleeds, stabbed in the face all those times, we spoke on that. We spoke out about it because we felt it was important too, that people know that she wasn't just stabbed, a couple times in her sleep, which is equally as bad. I mean, I don't know if it's equally as bad, but it's bad. It's bad, So
I want people to understand when we say that these victims fought harder than Thompson defended them, I want them to read those docs, read all of them and say, did these victims fight harder than this prosecutor fought to defend them? And I think it's pretty clear. I think even with what happened to Xana and our daughter, it was clear these guys fought, and Thompson was a weak, pathetic man. And he ran. So he has to own it.
And Thompson is the prosecutor, correct?
The other thing I was thinking about when I was reading it was just the rage that Kohberger had, there's never been any evidence, I guess, that he had it out for any of the victims, but it's just hard. It's hard to imagine this was just totally random.
It wasn't random.
It wasn't random. It was just a pathetic prosecutor. So we're learning things through other, there's other laws that have to come into effect. And we've learned that he defined these things. He purposely, it was a strategy not to say that was sexually motivated, even though he was doing murder porn on his phone and they found that. And it was also purposely that he said it wasn't stalking, because that would have tied their hands. That would have tied the community's hands, where they would have had to publish that every 23 times he was out there and about, he was stalking. They would have had to put that on a webpage. They would have been obligated. That community, the universities, every stalking event that would have happened in Moscow would have been recorded. So he purposely decided, I'm not even going to pursue stalking, because that is going to hurt the university more than if I just say, we're not even going to try to, we're not going to.
And that's another person putting money over principles. Happens all too often, right? They say, oh, I don't want to hurt the university, so we're not going to go forward with the stalking aspect of this, even though it's true. Like, that's obnoxious. I'd be pissed off if I were them too. I mean, pissed off for more than one reason anyway. Pissed off because of everything that happened.
Go down that road. We don't need to, because I got the DNA in the crime scene. He didn't need to. So he backed off of that stuff, but that doesn't mean he's not guilty of doing it.
So you think he saw Kaylee around, followed her around, something like that?
They're going to show overlapping between their timing records, some of the victims' timing records, which they had. Now, they didn't have Brian's timing records because it went past 7 days, but they're going to overlap his pings in Idaho and their timing advance records and where they were at the same places at the same time, because there's other records like receipts and surveillance. There were ATMs. There was all these different things they were going to say. These victims and this perpetrator were here at the exact same time, multiple times over and over and over again. That's what I believe personally, is my opinion, they were going to establish in the case that they ran away from.
Have they warned you guys if there's more to come in terms of releases? Or
we know there is, just because we haven't even got to the original county yet. We're still in Ada County. All these releases are on Ada, so we haven't even got to the real meat of the release.
And could it be possible some of the prosecutor to steel man what they're thinking? They don't want to traumatize the family in a long court proceeding. Could that possibly be what they're thinking? Or do we think, no, it was actually just profit motivated laziness? I don't know. What do you think?
So yeah.
We know more's coming. We don't know what's in it.
We've been trying to find out about the leak investigation that we don't feel like it's even happening. We think it's fake because we were the first, my lawyer was the first one to point out that there was a leak in this investigation before it ever even got to Dateline. And we've never even been contacted. He's never been contacted. So to us, there is no investigation going on whatsoever. So we emailed them directly and they basically just told us, leave, get out of here. We're not going to tell you anything. We're not going to tell you the truth. You don't need to know the truth. We're going to do our investigation and maybe you'll know what happened. And I said, you know what? You can say that, but I'll go to the media and I'll let people understand that that's the kind of leadership that we have in this case right now. We have very questionable leadership who's literally sitting here telling us that we don't have the right to know about the investigation that cost us a trial.
I mean, yeah, in hindsight, we think did the leak sabotage our case? Because, weeks later we had a plea deal like thrown in our lap, and 3 days later we were sitting down in Boise, giving this guy a plea deal. So we're like, did this leak, was it really detrimental to the case so bad that, I mean, from what we were told was the defense came to prosecution and asked for the plea. But
well, the leak, how much of the leak was false and how much of the leak was true? And the leak literally talked about having his murder porn on his phone, all these pictures of other victims or
passed out
drunk girls.
Yeah.
So you can look that up. All that stuff has been unsealed and been verified. So
weren't they going to have a special prosecutor? Isn't that what the judge said?
Yes, he said they were going to assign us, and he was going to come after that person, whoever did it with vigor.
Hitler has been a huge disappointment. I mean, he has been a massive disappointment. And we've been saying, all we want to know is where it's at, because we're not being contacted and we know who your leaks are. We've heard some of them. We were aware of some of these facts before they became public. So we could probably clear some of the stuff up, and they don't even want to talk to us because they're scared of what we've discovered and who would get fired if we actually put that on record. And they tell us, stop emailing us because you're making records.
Do they just want this all to end? Is that they just want to have this in the rearview mirror? I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, they keep telling us, stop emailing us. You're making records. They literally told our lawyer.
What do they mean by that? Why can't there be records?
I don't know.
Well, if you raise these things up in court like we did, we raised this up and said, hey, there's a leak from the prosecutor. They're like, you're making records. Stop doing it. And I'm like, listen.
That sounds like image They just don't want their image to look bad. So they said, stop making our image look bad. Obnoxious.
You got to understand the people you're dealing with. I'm not going to be okay with these side deals that are going on. I don't know what's going on, but all I know is I'm getting to the truth. 100%. We're going to get to the truth. I don't care who gets in trouble. And that hasn't made it a very popular narrative. So now they're just like, stop emailing us, stop making records, just leave us alone. This is inappropriate.
They said they can't deny or confirm whether there's an investigation going on or not. We're not privy to that information.
Was that from the prosecution?
No, that was from the judge's clerk, the judge's assistant.
His assistant literally basically said, you guys don't have the right to know. You don't have the right to know. And I'm like, listen, I have the right to know, you, judge. You don't have the right. I have more of a right to this case than you do. We can go get another judge. You can't get another father. You can't get another mother. Judges are a dime a dozen. They've overrated themselves. These parents are critical. You don't have these human beings without them. Judges, I don't want to be dismissive to them, but sometimes
Judges also can be high on the narcissism / psychopathy scale, which is ironic, right? But how many people have more power than a judge? The difference is you do have to work a little bit to be a judge, but that's something that a disciplined dark triad type person, they would love it. And again, people would like to think, oh, they're a judge. Of course, they're great. They're great people. Well, certainly not always. Certainly not always. If you look into the cases where they send kids to these for-profit prisons and they're getting kickbacks, does that sound like your great judge to you? No. So at the end of the day, they're humans, and humans can be very fallible, and cluster B personalities can be in any profession, especially ones that are powerful and have control and authority over others. And a judge certainly qualifies as that. So he's speaking to that point right here. Yeah, these judges think they're holier than thou. They think their shit doesn't sting. But it does. But it does.
Over-evaluate themselves. And in this case, Hitler's way over-judged himself.
Are you guys like doing okay overall, would you say?
What kind of question is that, Brian Etten?
It's hard. It's always something. I recently had not gone through any of Kaylee's stuff. So last week I started trying to just go through Kaylee's things. So literally opening boxes that have been packed up since she passed away. So those boxes are coming from Moscow, and those were her room packed up exactly the way she left it. So I'm looking for certain things, and that has been it's been slow. But
notes she wrote herself.
Little notes that she had on her little sticky pads, and her hairbrush and her retainers, and clothes that you see her wearing a lot of the pictures. And
like I said, a judge, you're not as important as you think you are.
It just is all too much.
We are the victims, and if you're not there for the victims, then get out of the way. Get out of the way, Hitler. If you're not here to do a real investigation, get out of the way.
Amen to that. I would tell these parents also something that really helped me understand someone I knew. My ex-girlfriend, like freaking 15 years ago now, her boyfriend before me hung himself in his backyard when he was still with my girlfriend at the time. And that happened 5 months before I met this girl. And we watched the show called 6 Feet Under together. Jolly really likes that show too. But it really explores grief in a real way. Like it's a real show. And again, I don't know if the father would like it, but I bet you the mother might.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know why,
But we know until we get calls, it ain't real. It ain't real because we were the very first to tell them that this was what was going on. And we were right because we knew about things like the white car, we knew about the sheath. And the thing is, Thompson knows. We asked him about the sheath before it became public, and his eyes just dropped out of his head. And he's like, how did you guys hear about this? And we're like, because you guys have people talking to the media. We're not special, but we are very
They
committed
don't
to
have a
figure this
crystal
out.
ball.
Yeah, we do know things are being linked. We're trying to help your investigation by saying that this is going on. So reel it in, have a meeting, tell everyone they got to close their lips up, you know, and let's get back on the same ship. But instead of that, they made us look like we were up to something bad. And, you know, they went out, I think 3 days later, they put Shannon under a gag order.
Yeah, I
So
remember that.
Yeah, Shannon literally calls them out, and their answer is to gag him. And people don't even realize what's going on. It's like, they're literally taking a family lawyer that we're working with and gagging him as if he's part of this investigation. This is the story. This is part of the story right here in front of you. And everyone's like, well, good. I'm glad they gagged their family. I'm glad. Well, guess what? Well, now you got this investigation you're never going to get to the truth of. And the first people who brought it to your attention, you told them to shut up and be quiet.
Yeah. Well,
That's just absurd. It goes to show you how much politics and money and image of things comes into play here. You would think it's just about doing what's best by the victims' families, right? Doing what's best for justice in the legal system, but clearly not.
you guys know like 99.99%. I told you this, Christy, too, of people support you guys. I mean, it's always just the vocal, you know, people who are like, oh, he didn't do it, or, you know, just people who just want like some controversy and like to stir things up on the internet.
Yeah.
But I hope you guys feel like, you know, almost everybody supports the families and thinks of you guys and just feels terrible.
And I've always been an aggressive Kaylee first type guy and Maddie first. So if I offend you with the way that I approach defending them, I don't care. And I told Hitler, it's not my job to protect the guy who killed my kid. That's your guys' job. And if I make your job difficult, I don't care about it. I don't care. You know how difficult it is to lose your child? Lose your child in the middle of this, and I'm supposed to feel sorry for you? Get over yourself. Get over.
And this is a good thing to go over too. So someone loses their child. People who haven't lost their child, they'll act all sorts of ways. They'll be obnoxious and care more about money and their image. But then God forbid, if the same thing happens to them, then they'll act like everyone needs to jump through their hoops, and they'll act completely differently. And then maybe they would understand more of what the parents are going through here. But it would be another example of a double standard. It happens a lot where until something happens to them, they just don't get it. People don't get it.
Yourself, Judge. If I made your job hard, too bad. Too bad. Get over it, man. Get over it. Don't tell me how rough it is to go through a murder when your kid's asleep in her bed, getting higher educated, like graduating in days. And you're telling me how hard your job is because I'm talking to the media? Well, maybe you shouldn't be so scared of what I'm.
That's tone deaf. He's going to tell the parents how hard their job is. They're going to say, oh, our job's this hard. And you're going to tell the victim's parents that. Think about how tone deaf that is. Think about how emotionally unintelligent that is and how unsocially calibrated it is.
Saying maybe you shouldn't be scared of what we're saying. If it's true, it's true. If it's not, then dismiss it. But it is what it is. We're trying to get through it every day at a time, and it's hard. It's hard, man. And when you lose leadership completely, and that's what happens when you get a plea deal. You've lost all leadership. It's just turned over to the World Wide Web. Everyone's their own media network. Everyone can grab an iPhone and start freaking publishing as if they were like the legit real media, and they all spin it their own way, and there's no leadership to course correct and put things back on the right record. There is no more record. They literally wash their hands and say, it's done, it's over.
You know what my favorite thing is? To see people sit there and they all have their opinions, right? All these people, these are all opinions. And then we'll do a video, say on your show, and people will say in your comments, perhaps, you know, or Nancy Grace's comments or something, and say, I'm so sick of these people. I'm so sick of hearing what they have to say. So our opinions don't matter, but everybody else's do. We should sit down and shut up, and we should stop
about
talking.
Our own child.
But everybody else can just keep talking about it. I mean,
yeah, if you think we should shut up, get a life. Nobody should shut up about their own child. And you weren't raised in the kind of family we were raised in if you ever stop professing for your child. I'm going to profess till the day I'm dead, and then I will be quiet.
Well, I think for some people it's just like a video game. Like it's just they just watch it. It's like they haven't been to your house, they haven't met you guys, they haven't met your other family members, they haven't seen. They don't see that it's a real, that you guys are real people. You're just like these characters on a TV screen. I think you know what I mean.
Dehumanized is what Brian Etton's trying to say. People, until you actually walk a mile in the other man's moccasins, so they say, it is easy for people like that to dehumanize. Who also is it easy to dehumanize for? Cluster B folks. They're notorious for that. They treat people like they're pawns in chess, and they just don't think about the humanity. They think about numbers. And you're going to see a lot of this coming up with the AI stuff, right? When people are going to be like, yep, just straight to AI because it's better for the numbers. Who cares what happens to families? Who cares what happens to society as a whole? But we're seeing a lot of this. This also is part of the epidemic of narcissism too, by the way.
Well, I get that. I think that's why I try to be forgiving and try to be like, you know what, don't even go down those paths. But it's hard. It's hard for her because she feels like that matters. And I've tried to tell her, you know what Kaylee and Maddie would think about how you defended him, that would matter. That would matter a lot more than a couple people's sentences.
I've just never seen a murderer, in such a horrific crime to these 4 kids be defended so at such a high regard, just
there's a lot of sick people that relate
just defending, what he did or protecting him. I don't know if it's just, trying just to, oh, he's innocent. He's just, so innocent. And poor Brian. I mean, it is just.
And who is she referring to here that is doing that? Is she talking about creators? Is she talking about just like the hybristophilia people out there, the women that become attracted to murderers? What is she talking about?
Because I know 100% without a doubt who killed Kaylee.
Anybody with a brain knows his history since like literally middle school has been just problematic.
Yeah.
Girls. And the crazy thing is, it's a lot of times it's these crazy females that want to defend him. And if anybody was harassed by him and felt that they were threatened by him.
B, gotta focus, B. I'll give you a minute.
Get a life. Nobody should shut up about their own child. And you weren't raised in the kind of family we were raised in if you ever stop professing for your child. I'm going to profess till the day I'm dead. And then I will be quiet.
Well, I think for some people it's just like a video game. Like it's just they just watch it. It's like they haven't been to your house, they haven't met you guys, they haven't met your other family members, they haven't seen. They don't see that it's a real, that you guys are real people. You're just like these characters on a TV screen. I think you know what I mean.
Well, I get that. I think that's why I try to be forgiving and try to be like, you know what, don't even go down those paths. But it's hard. It's hard for her because she feels like that matters. And I've tried to tell her, you know what Kaylee and Maddie would think about how you defended him, that would matter. That would matter a lot more than a couple people's sentences.
I've just never seen a murderer, in such a horrific crime to these 4 kids be defended so at such a high regard, just
there's a lot of sick people that relate
just defending, what he did or protecting him. I don't know if it's just, trying just to, oh, he's innocent. He's just, so innocent. And poor Brian. I mean, it is just because I know 100% without a doubt who killed Kaylee.
Anybody with a brain knows his.
So who is protecting and defending him? Is it just like the random folks? Thank you very much for this, Heather, by the way. I really appreciate you. You are the best.
History since like literally middle school has been just problematic.
Yeah.
Girls. And the crazy thing is, it's a lot of times it's these crazy females that want to defend him. And if anybody was harassed by him and felt that they were threatened by him, it was females. So it's.
Well, he also admitted it. I mean, he could have had a trial. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
He admitted it.
literally
Said,
admitted
I'm not
it.
even going to fight it. I'm not
Yeah,
even
so
gonna
I
fight
don't
it.
know like what.
But they're going to fight it for him.
Yeah,
That's
it's such a small percentage. So I mean, I know it's easy for me to say, and then you guys see comments, but it's like this many people. I don't know if there's a way to just try to block those people out, because
I took
there's always going to be crazy people.
So that's a good point here, B. We'll bring this up here. There were several YouTube creators that kept running Kohberger. I'd never even heard that term until today. Conspiracy theory live streams, and they grew followers. So this relates to what? How the social media algorithm is just like a narcissist. And what do I mean by that? Well, just like a narcissist that likes positive and negative attention because it gives them fuel, so too does the social media algorithm. The one thing a narcissist and the social media algorithm doesn't like is being ignored. No attention. So in fact, the only way to punish Kohberger streamers is ironically to ignore them. You would think, oh, you must call them out. It's like, well, you can call them out on your own channel, but you can't call them out on their channel or else you're helping them. The only way you'll get them to really take notice is when there's views going down. Money goes down, views goes down, or people just start leaving and unsubscribing. That's the only thing that will help.
There is this trailer park filter that would like probably eliminate like 90% of them.
Oh my gosh, stop. Stop. I just try to like, I just really, try hard, just not to focus on it. I just, I hate to see him.
Yeah, you don't want
protected,
somebody defending. Yeah,
and
he's the scum of the earth.
I think that when this, when this stuff starts coming out, and that's why we try to, be vocal about what happened to Kaylee and say, look, she wasn't just sleeping in her bed, and to ignore all the evidence and just go with your own theory here. And these two can be seen, can both be true too. Maybe the law enforcement messed up. I don't know. I don't read all the documents. I really try not to dive into it. You know what I'm saying?
You're consumed already. I'm
consumed with enough crap already. So see, the law enforcement made some mistakes. That doesn't mean that him innocent. I'm sorry, I can't even
It's okay.
It doesn't make him innocent. Just because law enforcement made some mistakes, and I'm not denying or confirming that. I don't know.
There's
it
no
doesn't say
investigation.
They messed up. And because mistakes were made, it doesn't mean that they could have been honest mistakes. I don't even, like I said, I don't even know what I would be referring to as mistakes because I don't.
Well, a mistake would easily be like, you're in front of the murder house doing minor in possession when you should be up there at the King Road house. I mean, that would be an example of why some people are like.
I'm just saying.
But I mean, at the end of the day, his DNA is on the knife sheath.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's on video speeding away.
Yeah.
Arriving and then
one-way road.
Speeding off. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, all of the reports from before of his behavior at WSU. I mean, I don't know. It's not like there wasn't any evidence here.
Here's a big one for me, and a lot of people may think, oh, this is totally normal, but when he was arrested, 100% confirmed myself by me, he was sitting in his kitchen at whatever time it was back in Pennsylvania, late at night, early in the morning, whatever it was, wearing gloves, sorting trash into baggies. Why would somebody be doing that?
And then run.
Is that normal? They said, and by the time they got into the house, they had eyes on him. That's what he was sitting there doing. By the time they got into the house, he took off running, and they ultimately arrested him on the stairs. But yes, he was sitting at the kitchen table sorting trash.
So they did, but they announced the police are here, and they kicked down the door. The rest of his family stood exactly where they were. Only one person ran away and tried to hide. Only one. Actions speak louder than words, people. He's going through his trash, and the cops say, "We're here," and he runs off. But some people get it, some people
don't. He turned off his phone, and he had not shut his phone off like that from the cell, who is it? Cellbrite?
Cellbrite basically showed.
Forensics said he had not turned his phone off like that in 9 months. So it's not like, dude, I turn my phone off every night. Like some people do. So some people say that's not really that weird. Well, do you turn it off at 1:56 a.m. and then turn it back on at 4:32?
I just hate that you guys feel like you still have to prove this.
Well, we only have to do this because Thompson's retired and he gave up on the case and thought that if I do a deal, my job's done.
It all goes away.
I have no responsibility to these families. I have no responsibility to my community. I have no more responsibility to you camera people. I feel like as long as there's a story to be told, that somebody needs to be working through that courthouse and clearing this up. It shouldn't be us. It should be one of them till they're exhausted in the face, beating these stories in there.
So I'm slightly unclear on the rest of the work that needs to be done. So to the parents, if that guy Thompson didn't step down and retire, what would he be doing now? Like that once he's in jail for life, kind of like managing this information that's coming out, like filtering it or preventing it from reaching the public? Is that what they want done? Or what else do you think they want done?
It shouldn't be us. And if you say it shouldn't be us, we agree. But who else is going to step in here? Because we were quiet for months. And guess what? Release after release after release, and they had to be redacted because they did it wrong. And we were the ones picking up the phone or email and saying, you realize there's bodies in these photos, right? You guys realize you're not very good at what you're doing. You need to pull these back. So that's what happens when we get quiet.
Social security numbers, fingerprints and social security numbers.
Fingerprints and social security number of college grads. These guys aren't bad people. These people have dedicated their lives to be like the best of the best. And you're going to go give out their information so somebody could steal it?
That was a mistake.
Whoops. Oh, we're going to give them 5 years of protection. Yeah, well, that doesn't cut it. That doesn't cut it.
So,
they basically offered those people after we told them what they did. They're like, well, we'll give them 5 years of protection for their credit history. No, you'll do it for the rest of their lives.
Well, and the one photo was pretty clear.
And again, the father here has got some good points, because if you want things done and you want to be listened to, you need to have this guy's attitude, honestly, because it shouldn't be this way. But when you actually act the way he's acting, you get more of what you want. And people listen to you. And if you're a thorn in their side, people will do more for the thorn in their side than the person who's just all nice and bubbly. It's just human nature a little bit. So that's another lesson to learn from this case. If you want something, sometimes you got to be a little fiery.
Really, you could see a body in. I mean, I don't know how they missed that or didn't check it.
How do you miss a social security number?
Yeah.
You can't send a social security number to a hospital and not get flagged. Okay. We have systems that literally just understand that sequence of code gets flagged. So what were these guys doing? I mean, what?
Yeah.
And fingerprints right along with them. So if you just really want to take on this person's identity, there you go.
The crime scene photos were bad. They were bad.
Yeah, they were inappropriate. You shouldn't lose your right to be a human being just because you died. And just because you were murdered in your bed, you're going to lose your right to HIPAA protections. Like, what? So I could go kill a bunch of people and then they lose all their right to their privacy? We get to share that?
Okay, so this makes sense then. I mean, it sounded like they were leaving out parts of the story, but it's really more about just the fact this stuff was released and there's images out there somewhere. And this is the only way the parents can still be a parent, right? When your daughter's gone, this is all they have left. Protecting her memory, protecting like what's left of what happened to her. So this is how they're kind of parenting and grieving through the process here, which is totally understandable.
Like, we don't want to live in a world like that. That's not the kind of laws we want to defend. At least I don't.
Is there anything, I mean, that you guys can do? And it shouldn't be your responsibility, but are they going to try to change any laws? Do you know? I mean,
we're trying to change laws. We were just talking to the management of Brad Little Friday and saying, hey, just the same thing. When somebody kills somebody, like, because we're literally, there's a mental evaluation of the psychopath. And even though Thompson didn't want to use psychopath in the courtroom because he's a weak, pathetic prosecutor.
I guess it's not a real mental illness or something. I don't know.
He searched on his own phone. He searched up that he was a psychopath, but he didn't want to use it in court. So those type of things, that's his private HIPAA. So I'd be violating his rights if I went and looked at his HIPAA.
His medical records.
And again, that would make me mad too. Kohberger has more rights to HIPAA than my dead child. Like what? And I know what they're saying. Technically, in America, there is no such thing as a psychopath. It's not in the DSM. All it is a subsector of antisocial personality disorder. Sociopath and psychopath is a subsector in America. Now, in Canada, that's not true. In Canada, there is a psychopath. And there's a book called Psychopath Free by someone that's very popular. But again, that's why they say that. But it's also used, it's certainly used on YouTube. It's used in the narcissism sphere too.
His medical records.
But he can kill my daughter and the whole world gets to see those records. That's not what Idaho's going to stand for. Idaho will not stand for that. You're not going to murder someone and then their records get blasted out for the rest of the world to see and make profit off and watermark, and then they basically can make money off it because that's the system that
so people are putting their logo, like their podcast logo,
like it's their property, to our kids' worst moments of their lives. They're gonna, how dare you share that? How dare you post it on your page? It belongs to me.
And I don't post any of that stuff on our page. I mean, I would never share the photos. I get it. If you're gonna look at them, you're gonna look at them.
But I don't like a system that supports this kind of behavior and makes it legal.
I don't like all the just the very bottom feeders just sharing them and documenting and talking about them and blowing them up and zooming in. I don't like that aspect of it. Like be professional with them. There is a professional manner that they can be handled. Be professional with them, with your entity. Don't,
That's a good point. It's the professionals have moved on to the next story.
Yes.
That's a good point too. But this is about what? Respect for the dead. And in situations like this, you see who has respect for the dead, who has empathy, compassion, understanding, and who just wants the next thing, who wants attention, who wants, for whatever motive, probably money and attention though, right? They're going to do whatever it takes to get those things. They're not going to respect the dead. They're not going to care about that. They're going to move on to the next thing, like the father's saying here.
Matters, and they should have. And now we have these cesspool, trailer trash type style people. And we need to make a law that, unfortunately, has to regulate the people that are at the lowest common denominator and say, you guys can't profitize, and create this cesspool of lies. And because eventually, after 10 years, this could form into like what happened with, I don't know the case, but it was in the Bay Area where he killed his wife and put concrete and sunk her down.
Oh, Lacey Peterson.
Peterson just got a case. So this stuff can form up and can actually create a momentum and go somewhere. So I'm not gonna stand quiet when they do that and try to do what happened to the Peterson family. I don't want to do that. So I'm trying to nub it right now because I've seen what happes. So people say that there's no point to do it, but there is a point.
I don't understand why, if you're a journalist like me, you have to go see them in person. I've seen that some places, you show up and they're like, okay, you're in the room, we'll give you the file, but you don't get to take them with you. If you just want to understand more, or you're writing a book or whatever, you know what I mean?
Or launch an appeal. If you want to go there and sit there and look at it all and then come back and be like, oh, that was a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. Fine. I'm not trying to hide evidence. I'm just trying to keep ghouls from turning my kid into a cash cow because my kid is worth more than them alive. That's what some of these losers are.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's true. It's true. They'll make more money off of our dead kids than they'll make off of their own freaking efforts. It's terrible. It's disgusting. And watermarking things like this, think twice about that because that's really low. That's really low.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys for talking to me. I know it's
appreciate you giving a mic and helping clear these things out. And we hope to not have to do it all the time, but every once in a while we want to just come back, kick the door down and say, hey, we're here, we're fighting for these kids, and there ain't no truth to it. And I'd love for professionals to do this. And if they do it, then we will be quiet. But
yeah,
we're here.
Well, I get what you're saying though. You know, just because there was a plea deal, it's not really over for you guys, and it's
not over for the whole community.
You know, yeah. I mean, as they release documents,
I need to explain them.
Yeah, I get what you're saying too. If you don't sort of tamp things down, it's like suddenly there's a petition, and then the next thing you know, in like 10 years, it's like, oh, let's reopen the case. You know, it's like,
yeah, no, it's like, and when you do a dump and you go over it and you're clearly educated with it, and you clearly are reading through things and reading them out loud and going over them, and that's great. It's just when they just read just what the defense says and not anything of the prosecution says, and they just go with that, and they're like, oh my gosh, the bodies were posed and the sheath was planted, because this is all what their experts were going to say in a trial. It would have been their expert and their expert.
Right. Now, bodies posed is a big one. I was reading about that in Mike King's book, Wolves in Sheep's Clothing. That is something serial killers do. It's part of the process for them. Posing the bodies or like writing things in the bodies certainly speaks to the sexual sadist / psychopathy for sure.
It's truly evident.
Yeah. The prosecution could have spoke, and the defense would have spoke, and their experts would have got out there, and the jury would have been left to decide which one holds more weight, which one do I believe more, because they're going to say opposite things. But these people are just reading exactly what they want and cherry picking all the good stuff that they think is the good stuff, and then just creating this little web, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, not understanding that was just what the defense was going to be. That's the way it works. I mean, they come up with a theory, and that
But when you release it, it seems like.
I want to know why all these people are fighting for him, though, when his own family's not fighting for him.
Well,
he's not fighting for himself. His own family has done nothing. If he's innocent, his mom has never gone on anything and said he is innocent. He was framed. He's not guilty. My son would never do this. His dad's not. His sister's not. His sister did an interview, so she's not running and hiding. She did an interview.
Yeah,
it was very vague.
But if he was innocent, he's obviously a smart person. He had a good. I mean, Ann Taylor was a good lawyer. It seemed like
she was.
I mean, they would have gone to trial. Like.
Yeah.
That, they wouldn't have ended up wanting a plea.
We can't say that Ann Taylor was not a fantastic attorney for him. I don't like the woman. She drove me nuts. I mean, should I like her? No. But we cannot deny that she did not do a damn good job for him. She gave it her all, and she got to the end of the road.
She's still getting paid for the case, we found out.
She knew that there was nothing else to do. There was nothing else she could do. It was done. It was over. She was just like, look, we're going to trial next
I want to say it's over, but it makes me uncomfortable that she's still getting paid to work this case.
Why is she still getting paid?
It's a good question. But we've been told that that's 100% accurate. She is. So I remember her saying that she hadn't looked at over all the information, all the details.
I think it's just until everything. I mean, she obviously has all of it.
He's convicted. She should be off the case from every expert I've talked to. But she's still on it. Some deal that probably Thompson did.
Because I think both sides have to review all the records before the judge signs off.
I would think that it's.
So I think she's probably still getting paid because you know what I mean. They both
going through the videos.
Yeah. So maybe it has something to do with that.
Some technicality. Brian Etten's probably correct with this.
Yeah, I could see, but yeah. Well. If there's ever anything I can do for you, as always, let me know.
Thank you.
You've been with us from the beginning, Brian. We appreciate you so much.
If anyone ever asks us for somebody like stick by if they go through a disaster, you'll be on our list.
Yeah.
Top of the list.
Number one.
I appreciate you guys. I don't know if I want to be that guy that's always with people when they go, but you guys, I can remember being in your living room right there, and the dogs and everything.
See, Brian Etten's a good dude.
So.
Somebody who's going to fight for you. You're on you're top of our list.
Yep, you were down there in Moscow. Yep.
Well, I'll see you guys soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, Brian.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So that was the victim's parents. Brian Netton did a good job with that.
This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
Finally put numbers to the violence, and one number stands out above all the others. 67. That's how many times Xana Kernodle was stabbed. 67 sharp force wounds on a 20-year-old woman who weighed maybe 120 pounds. To put that in perspective, Kaylee Gonzalez sustained 38, Madison Mogan 28, Ethan Chapin 17.
Yeah, we need some prosecutor. I bet you even the victim's parents would like Tony. He's not going to be any pro-burger, that's for sure.
And
neither would our girl Maureen, would she, Danielle?
Those three together, you get 83. Xana alone, 67. She took nearly as many wounds as the other three victims combined, and when you understand what that number actually means, it kind of changes the entire picture of what happened inside that house, because here's what the forensic evidence tells us. Kaylee, Maddie, and Ethan, none of them had blood on the bottom of their feet. No blood on Ethan's socks. That means they never stood up. They were attacked in their beds, and they died in their beds. But Xana, blood was present on the bottoms of her bare feet. She stepped in blood. She moved around inside her room during their attack. She was the only victim with evidence of movement after the violence started. And it gets more specific than that. Investigators found traces of Maddie and Kaylee's blood on the floor of Maddie's third-floor bedroom, on the stairwell, on the banister leading from the third floor down to the second, on the walls near Xana's bedroom. Now, if Maddie and Kaylee never stood up, and the autopsies confirmed they didn't, then someone else carried that blood downstairs. Investigators believe that someone went up to the third floor, saw or heard what was happening, and ran back down with Kohberger pursuing them or her. That someone, according to the evidence, was Xana. The police sergeant who processed the scene wrote in his report that it was obvious an intense struggle had occurred. Xana had deep defensive wounds between her fingers, the kind of wounds you get when you try to grab a blade with your bare hands. The autopsy documented cuts extending into the bones of her right hand. She didn't just resist, she fought with everything she had. And here's the part that matters for the case itself. Investigators believe that if Kohberger chased Xana down from the third floor, that's likely why he left his knife sheath behind. The one with his DNA on it. The one that broke the entire case open. That sheath was found in Maddie's room. He was interrupted. He was rushed. Because Xana forced him to chase her. Xana is also likely the reason Kohberger's classmates noticed scratches and cuts on his hands in the days after the murders. She marked him. And the commotion from that fight, that's what made surviving roommate Dylan Mortensen open her bedroom door. She heard screaming. She heard someone running down from the third floor to the second. She heard what sounded like a struggle, and then she heard a male voice say something that still makes my skin crawl. You're going to be fine. I'm going to help you. Those words spoken while stabbing a 20-year-old woman 67 times.
And that reminds me what the BTK killer did too. In his first serial killer spree, he said that to an 11-year-old girl. He said, "Oh, you'll be okay, and you're going to be with the rest of your family in heaven soon." Brutal stuff.
Mortensen opened the door and saw a masked man walk past her room and out through the sliding glass door on the second floor. She described him as 6 feet tall, slim build, wearing a black ski mask. She saw him carrying what looked like a package, which may have been the DoorDash order Xana had received just minutes before the attack. Xana Kernodle likely wasn't surprised to be a target that night. Prosecutors believe she encountered Kohberger by chance after he'd already killed Maddie and Kaylee upstairs. She heard something. She went to check. And when she saw what was happening, she didn't freeze. She ran. She fought. She screamed. And because of that, Kohberger left behind the evidence that put him away for life. Kaylee's sister called Xana a hero. I think that's exactly right. There's more that we're going to get into here. Before we do, I want to get your thoughts on this. We're not going to show you any pictures. I'm not going to. I mean, I don't even understand this. I don't get it. I don't get the people who want to see the pictures of the bodies. I mean, it's like, why? What we're going to talk about what happened. We're not going to get gruesome, because that's not what this is about. We're trying to understand the situation and take something out of it. Take something that we can learn out of it, other than just gawking at the horror of all of this. Give me your thoughts in the comment section on YouTube or on our Substack. HiddenKillers.substack.com. That link is in the description. Let's get into more of what we're learning, because if the forensic details are the story of...
And yes, George might not be here. He might get a demerit, but he might hear this.
What went right in this investigation, the photo release is the story of what went catastrophically wrong. Because this month, or depending on when you're listening to this, in January of 2026, Idaho State Police uploaded their 6th batch of public records from the Kohberger case. This one included nearly 2,800 images taken by law enforcement at the crime scene. I mean, these are photos they've now had for years. Blood on the walls, blood on mattresses, blood on floors, furniture, personal belongings, computers, clothes, shoes, cell phones, all soaked in blood. One photo reportedly showed smeared blood fingerprints on a white nightstand. Another showed blood dripping down a wall. And then hours later, they pulled the whole thing down. Here's what the Gonzalez family says happened. They got a phone call less than 15 minutes before the photos went live, telling them the release was coming. By the time that call ended, the photos were already public. Multiple outlets had already downloaded them. The damage was done before the families even had time to process the warning. Now, you might be thinking, is this public record stuff? Don't they have to release this? And technically, yes, Idaho's public records law generally requires disclosure once a criminal case is closed. But that's not the whole story, because the families had already fought this battle in court, and they won. Back in August of 25, the families of Madison Mogan and Ethan Chapin filed for a temporary restraining order to stop the release of the most graphic images. Judge Megan Marshall granted that order on August 15th, and in October, she issued a permanent injunction. Her ruling was clear. The extreme emotional distress caused by releasing images of the victims' bodies and death scenes outweighed the public's interest in seeing them. She specifically said that blurring the images wasn't enough, that you could still see the outline and contours of the bodies. The city of Moscow was ordered to black out any portion of the images showing the victims' bodies or the blood immediately surrounding them. That was the rule. That was the court order. That was the protection these families were supposed to have. So when Idaho State Police released these photos on January 20th, they claimed they followed that order. I don't know what it is with our world today, but we can't seem to cross our T's or dot our I's. We like to tell ourselves, oh, we did that. Check that off. And then you get called on the carpet for it. It's like, oh, oops. I miss the world that we had years ago with less oopses in them, where you did your job right the first fucking time. I don't know. Call me crazy. I say this to my daughter all the time. It's not hard to succeed out there. You just need to be a little competent because most of the world isn't remotely. Seriously. I mean, it's a good way to live. If you can just be a little competent, if you can be really competent, if you can really have your shit together and be organized and figure out how to do things, it's a cakewalk. If you can't, it's difficult. But we like to put barriers up into how difficult we want to make our world. And we like to complain about everything too. Oh, it's just too hard to make sure that these photos didn't show the bodies. You had one job. Their spokesperson said they made redactions in accordance to Judge Marshall's injunction. But then why didn't they pull the photos back down? Or why did they pull the photos back down? Why did they need to further review to ensure the appropriate balance between privacy concerns and public transparency? If you followed the court order, what questions got raised? What went wrong? They really haven't explained. And meanwhile, the photos are out there. Because somebody screwed up and now somebody doesn't want to admit it. Because when something hits the internet, it doesn't.
So someone in the chat says, Tony Bruschi is dramatic, but not histrionic like Nancy Grace. A good compliment for Tony Bruschi.
Doesn't come back. The families know that. Everyone knows that. This was the sixth batch of documents released since Kohberger's sentencing. ISP had done this 5 times before. They knew the process. They knew the court order existed. They knew what was at stake. And somehow nearly 2,800 images of them, some of them too graphic, went live with less than 15 minutes notice to the people who will be most devastated by seeing them. And then some of them weren't blurred out correctly. I don't know. Give this job to someone more than just the intern. Someone who can do it correctly. I don't know. I mean, how do you screw this up? The Gonzalez family put out a statement that said what a lot of us are thinking: murder isn't entertainment and crime scene photos aren't content. They called out the armchair detectives who would zoom in, analyze blood spatter, suggest they didn't add up.
So were people actually doing that? Did you see any channels out there that did that? They were zooming in, trying to act like they're Dexter or something, analyzing blood splatter.
They called it what it is: disrespectful and gross. And look, to anybody out there who's still a pro-burger, how about we lock you in a room with Brian and a knife? Just for the night, see what happens. Let's see how pro-burger you are at the end of that night, or how much you resemble a burger at the end of the night. I'm going to guess it might be the latter. 4 kids died in that house. They were someone's kids, someone's siblings, someone's best friends. And now their crime scene photos are being passed around the internet because the state agency either didn't follow a court order or didn't do it carefully enough. Take your pick. Neither answer is acceptable. So here's where we are. We now know in forensic detail what happened inside 1112 King Road. We know that 3 of the 4 victims never even got out of bed. We know that Xana Kernodle heard something, went to investigate, and fought for her life against a man with a K-bar knife. We know she had defensive wounds between her fingers. We know she was stabbed 67 times. We know her fight likely caused Kohberger to leave behind the evidence that convicted him. We also know that despite a court order designed to protect these families, graphic photos of their children's murder scenes ending up on the internet last week because someone didn't do their job. We know the families got less than 15 minutes warning. We know the photos were already live before that call ended. Kohberger is serving 4 consecutive life sentences. He'll die in prison. The pathetic blob of subhuman flesh that he is. He'll never explain why he did this. He's never shown remorse. He's not capable. He refused to speak at his sentencing. The judge called him the worst of the worst. Dylan Mortensen, the surviving roommate who saw him walk past her door that night, called him a hollow vessel, something less than human, because he is. And the families, they are still fighting for accountability, for privacy, for the basic dignity of not having to see their child's death scene photos show up on social media because the state agency couldn't get its act together.
And so again, once that guy steps down as the prosecutor, there should be someone else taking their place, especially if the public defender is still getting paid. Shouldn't there also be an equivalent on the prosecution side? Someone doing something, someone to protect the families? I think that'd be a good use of money spent, no?
Xana Kernodle fought until she couldn't fight anymore. The least we can do is make sure her family doesn't have to keep fighting battles that should have already been won. Stupidity knows no bounds. Really doesn't. Especially shit like this. My God. Your thoughts in the comment section on YouTube. What do you think happened here? What should happen to the... I'm not out for blood. I mean, like somebody clearly screwed up. I think a lot of us are just so sick of it, though. Because I don't know, to me, it feels like our standards on so many just basic functions of life, like just doing your fucking job. Like your job is to go through these photos and make sure that they don't have this in there. Maybe double check. Well, they already went through them. Did somebody go through them? Phil? Yeah, somebody went through them a long time ago, Ernie. As if somebody's named Phil and Ernie. I don't know. Maybe that's like the names that the police say. I'm just throwing it out there. Okay, well, we're good. They're good to post. They're good to post? Okay, post them. It could have been that stupid. Who knows? Has anyone looked at these recently just to make sure that it's the right batch, that we're not accidentally... It's like people have this ignorant confidence about them. And the idea to second guess oneself. I guess that's what's so shocking is some of us are always second guessing ourselves. Some of us are always like, are we sure? Is this really okay? And you've already checked it 42 times. I'm on that extreme of the pattern of let's really cross our T's, dot our I's. And some are just like, what could possibly go wrong? Everything? Yeah. Ask for forgiveness later. Never been an ask for forgiveness later type of guy. I've always been let's go into this with our best foot forward. I think we're very quickly becoming an endangered species, those of us who operate that way. I don't know. I am baffled. I am baffled. Tell me what you think should happen to that person. Tell me what you think happened here to begin with. At the end of the day, it gives us more perspective on how this all went.
And again, this is why the parents are angry, because they dropped the ball. And I think it's because, well, this isn't the bright, shiny object anymore. He's in jail, so they're not going to care as much about it. But they're not showing care and concern for the victims' families. They're not respecting the dead in that respect. And that's something I would consider masculine containment. That is what the city there is not doing for the families, what the municipality is not doing, which is pretty important, and they're dropping the ball.
Down. Xana was a hero in this. She interrupted the dipshit. She interrupted the closed, rigid thinking Brian Kohberger. Enough that he was stupid enough that he left his knife sheath, no matter how much planning he did, because someone caught him in the fucking cookie jar. Give me your thoughts in the comments and on Substack. Until next time, my name's Tony Bruschi. We'll talk again real soon.
All right. That's pretty much it for that. Wanted to do an experiment going over the Kohberger case here and see how that went. Ugh. But we'll see. We'll see what's back on the docket for tomorrow night. We'll see if there's any cases. We're going to start going over some new cases here. This is still an old case, but new news on an old case. So we'll have to see what else is out there as well. Now, there was lots of blood, Danielle. Lots of blood. Not on him, his person, though. He cleaned himself up. The crime scene, though. We'll see, B. I haven't seen many of these Kohberger folks. I guess only the true crime people have seen them. I haven't really seen them. But definitely remember to comment on the video. Give some grief to the Kohbergers if you see them on the main video, too. And I'll have to look into what to go over tomorrow night because I'm not quite sure. And other than that, no more announcements either. I have to reach out to everyone to set up the next round of interviews here too. All right. But everyone, that's really all I had for tonight. So thank you to Jimmy and Livin there for modding. Getting the people to like and subscribe, which is good. And then Jolly, Danielle, Ellie, Kat, Heather, Danielle, and everyone else. Hot Ham. Can't forget Hot Ham, too. And Maureen. Thank you again for the super chat, Heather. I appreciate you. You got it, Jolly. Glad to see you here in the chat, Jolly. You too, Corey. Appreciate everyone in the chat. So till next time, everybody, over and out. Yeah, but let me know what you think, Maureen. Comment on the main video when it gets posted. Very good job, Livin. Thank you. Have a good night, Danielle. Yes, and Kat. Jolly is an OG. It's glad to have her. I'm glad to have her here. Hot tamales. Hadn't seen you here till now. But glad you're here too. Ellie, thanks for being here as well. Kat, thank you for being here as well, as usual, with your song quotes and the whatnot. And go listen to Country Roads for me too. Or Every Rose Has Its Thorn, or both. And you have a good night, Rose. I didn't know you were here either. But a good night, everybody.